Hello and welcome to today's video. Today's topic is self-observation, the key to transformation. And the reason why I decided to talk about this today is because I'm noticing this increasingly within myself. I have been becoming more aware of how I'm actually self-observing quite continuously, and it's been becoming more and more obvious to me in the last, I'm going to say, month or so, where I've just really gotten this sense of it's like when I'm interacting with other people, or just even when I'm just with myself, doing things, hanging out, whatever, or if I'm in really any given situation, I'm noticing that I am increasingly observing myself. So it's almost like a third person view. I'm not seeing, it's like I'm seeing myself interacting with another person, but then I'm also simultaneously getting this sort of third person view or whatnot of myself interacting with that person while I'm doing it. So it's really, really interesting. There's been, I want to call it like a separation within my mind of my old self, recognizing my old self, recognizing how much I have shed my old self, and then also recognizing and acknowledging the new self and how the new self behaves or acts or operates in general. So there's just a really interesting phase, I'm going to call it, that I'm moving through at this time, and I wanted to share this wisdom with you guys because I really feel deeply that this is something that is truly one of the keys to transformation. Of course, there are many keys to transformation, but this is self-observation is certainly one that if you are doing it correctly, then you can really actually create a brand new version of yourself just by simply observing the old version of yourself, observing the parts of that self that you no longer resonate with, and recognizing how you have changed or how you would like to change, because through observation we get a sense of what we would like to change because we become so much more aware. So I'm going to start off with saying or just describing self-observation, or kind of defining it as the dictionary would define it. So self-observation is a person's ability to isolate aspects of themselves from immersion in their ongoing life, standing apart to see the sources of their behavior and thinking, and to note the effects they have on themselves and on others. Observing themselves, they are in a divided state. They are both the observer and the observed, which is exactly what I've been feeling within myself. So I'm being the observer and the observed. And it's a very interesting feeling, but a very liberating one at the same time, because I can feel how incredibly separate I am from the old self, and becoming the observer of the observed. It's truly a sense of newness and a sense of transformation that I'm experiencing within myself. So I'm going to quote a couple of different parts of Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It's a really, really amazing book, and there are so many different nuggets of gold throughout the entire book. The entire book is amazing, but there are definitely specific notes in here that are very important. And I think if we can absorb this information and actually apply it, then we have a really, really good chance in truly transforming ourselves in the way that we desire to be transformed, which of course is always up to us, because we get to decide who we recreate ourselves as when the old self no longer works. So that is definitely the process that I'm currently experiencing and what I'm going through. It is truly this opportunity that I feel I have at this time to really create a brand new version of myself. I already have many ideas and many different things that I'm putting into place that are helping me to helping me to basically stay on track, that are going to be 100% in alignment with the new version of myself that I wish to embody, where certain parts of myself from the old self are now completely dying away and falling away, which is wonderful because it's making space for this brand new version of myself. So one of the keys to breaking the habit of being yourself is working toward being more observant. So observation is truly a tool. And if you can start to look at yourself, like I said, as the observer, as the observed, then you're going to start to notice things about yourself, things about your behavior, things about things you say, things about how you interact, things about your daily activities, your daily routines. You're just going to notice things that these things are not working for you, that they're not in alignment with you, that they're not serving you in any way, that they are not the embodiment of the current version of yourself, because now you're already in that transformation mode. You are already no longer identifying with the old self, but you're not quite the new self yet. And so as we merge from the old self into the new self, there is this process that needs to take place within us where we become really detached. And that's what I notice the most for myself, is the more detached I become from things, people, places, and the more I really do this introspection, the more I am really continuously just observing myself, the more I'm actually able to truly create the future that I desire. And again, that comes through allowing the old self to fall away. But first you have to be aware of the old self. So we can only become aware of the old self if we are willing to go through this observation period. And while observation, I think, is something that will be, it'll be something that I'm feeling I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, I feel right now is this sort of critical point, or like a tipping point within my life, where observation is extremely key to helping my transformation take place, to really facilitate it, to really give way to that transformation. And the more I observe myself, the more I observe unconscious behaviors, unconscious things that I say, or unconscious ways of being, or habitual ways of being, the more I observe those, the more I just don't identify with it. Like, I see how it is not who I want to be. And I also see how there's a sense of expiration, like it just, like that old self has truly expired. It is being dismantled at this time. It is like fading away or falling away from my energy field, actually, from my entire energetic vibration, my core vibration. So it's observation is a huge tool that can really guide us towards this brand new version of ourselves. Let me just get into some of the other stuff here in the book that I wanted to talk about. So to become familiar with anything, we have to spend some time observing it, which is so incredibly true. You're not going to know who you are unless you start to really pay attention to yourself. And if you are someone who is constantly outside of yourself, meaning that you're always looking for other people's validation, other people's approval, you're always looking for other people's opinions, you know, how they kind of react or don't react to you. If you're always kind of outside of yourself, you're really not going to truly understand who you are on the inside. And I find that introspection is, it really can be done in many different ways, and meditation is most certainly one of the main tools for introspection, right? Because when we meditate, we're actually tuning in to the inner part of ourselves. So it is not the old self necessarily, or the new self. It is just the current self. And when I meditate and I'm tuning into that current version of myself, then I can see excuse me, how there's this line between the old and the new. It's like I'm right on the cusp, and I'm right in between the two. And when I'm deeply introspecting and really observing like my thoughts or my feelings in that moment, when I meditate, I really bring myself into the present moment. There is no past, there is no future. It is just right now. And in that now moment, I really can see where I'm truly heading because of having an understanding and a feeling of where I currently am. And where you are in this moment is really dependent upon your ability to actually see where you are in this moment, if that makes any sense. Like, you have to become aware of where you are in this present moment. How much of the old self do you still identify with? And how much of the new self do you identify with? Have you even created a new self? Have you visualized or come up with a concept or an idea of how you would like to be and who you would like to be and how you want to show up in the world, how you want to show up for other people, how you want to show up for yourself? These are all the things I look at and I ask myself when I'm processing and when I'm trying to really figure out who this new version of me is going to look like, or wants to look like, or kind of should look like, or can look like. And it's really actually fun. Like, this isn't something that has to be complicated. It's not something that has to be difficult. It just is through observation, which is such a simple thing, and non-judgmental observation is actually really valuable, because you can look at yourself, but if you're looking at yourself through judgment, then you're actually not getting a clear perspective. Now you're getting ego perspective of yourself. You're not getting higher self or inner heart space perspective of yourself. Because the whole key with observation, I'm finding, is that it has to be completely non-judgmental. So I don't judge any part of myself during observation. And I noticed this actually in particular yesterday. So through the Easter weekend holiday that we just had, I was spending some time with family, and as I was hanging out with family, I was just getting, again, it was like this very strange sort of feeling of being in the present moment, but just kind of being so aware that I was observing myself constantly. And it wasn't like, I was also observing other people in a very different way and noticing things about other people, really, really seeing their stuckness, really seeing certain aspects of them very differently. It's so strange. It's like I just really see people very differently now. And myself also, like I said, I was really focusing on just me. How am I interacting? What did I just say? You know, even while I was playing with my little nephew, like it was all self-observation the entire time, and just what I said, what I did, and again, it's like this almost third person view. It's like I'm observing myself from the outside. It's literally what it felt like. It was really interesting. But it was giving me such insight into where I'm at currently, and it was just filling me with this feeling of like pride and joy and happiness. Like, I really felt just so good about myself. I'm like, dang, like I really came a long way. Like, I noticed all the different things of how differently I was responding to certain things, and like certain family members have just sort of a general, how do I say this, attitude about certain things, and even noticing that, and like how blatantly obvious it was, like their behavior and how they were showing up, and where before it was, I can genuinely feel the difference between how unconscious I used to be and how much more conscious I am now. It's almost a little bit difficult to put into words, but that's kind of the gist of it. So the key moment in making any change is going from being it to observing it. And that is what I am doing. It's what I am embodying. So imagine like watching a videotape of yourself. Like, if you could be recorded for a full 24 hours and that videotape was played back to you, then you would get a much clearer sense, a much higher perspective of how you actually behave, how unconsciously or consciously you behave, or talk or act or show up. And it would give you a really deep insight into just how you are. So how can you change from an old mode of operation to a new one unless you can see what the old and new look like? So this is what I'm saying. If you could observe yourself for a full 24 hours, then you would really start to see and recognize all of the different things that you do that you actually don't really like, because it doesn't truly resonate with your soul. It's not who you want to be, and it's actually not who you are. It is just something that is a part of a program. It's a part of a conditioning. It is a part of how you were raised, or the environment that you grew up in, or the environment you're currently in and what you're exposed to, and how that is influencing you on a continuous basis. That's what you're going to see. You're going to recognize that. So it's very, very important actually that we observe ourselves so precisely and vigilantly that you won't allow any unconscious thought, emotion, or behavior to go unnoticed. And now I'm in a state where I can't help it. Like, I notice everything I'm saying, everything I'm doing, everything I'm thinking, everything I'm feeling. Like, I really notice what parts of it are conscious and what parts are unconscious. And you know, they have that saying that once you see something, you can't unsee it. And it's very, very true. Because that's where I'm at. I just can't unsee any of it now. It's so obvious and in my face. And I'm going to share one last thing here. So when you make up your mind to change, you have to move to a new consciousness. You must become very clear about what you're doing, how you're thinking, how you're living, how you're feeling, and how you're being, to the point that it isn't you and you don't want to be it any longer. And that shift has to reach you on a gut level. And when it does, you will know, because you will have such keen observation skills. You will have such a deep understanding of who you are that you're going to so disidentify with your old self that the old self actually will just fall away. It just completely crumbles and falls away, because you're no longer giving focus, attention, or energy to it. You've observed it, you've recognized it, you notice all of the things that you don't like about yourself, and all of the things that you would like to change, and how you would like to behave and show up for yourself on a daily basis or for others. And then once you have that picture cultivated and you know, then it's all about just being that and practicing that over and over and over until it becomes absolute habit. And then that new version is actually what becomes our habit, to the point of absolute transformation. And it turns you into the new version of who you actually desire to be. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope it made sense to you guys. It's definitely something that you can put into practice immediately. Start observing yourself, like right now. Start noticing what you're doing, what you're thinking, how you're behaving, how you're just being, and really notice all of the things that you don't like about it, why you don't like it, and notice how it would be better if you did. What would you need to do, or what would you need to think, or how would you need to feel to actually become that new transformed version of yourself? Thanks so much for tuning in. Do hit a like and share on the way out. Leave me a comment if you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to add, or any thoughts that you would like to share. I would love to hear it. And definitely subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. I definitely make a lot of videos about self-mastery. I'm always sharing my personal wisdom, things that I'm experiencing currently and what I'm going through, and how I'm shifting and transforming into my brand new version of self. So thank you so much for watching, for being here, for sharing this time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.